Hello guys, welcome to another video, and this one I just wanted to do a bit of discussion on a bit of Path of Exile 2 news that I seem to have missed. I should think this is old news for some other people, but this is the Summon Raging Spirits gem. I just wanted to talk about this one a little bit because it looks awesome, and this was posted in my Discord, and I seem to have completely missed this. So this is Summon Raging Spirits as it is implemented in Path of Exile 2, which is really different. So here's the comparison of the two gems. If we look at this description here, so Raging Spirits in Path of Exile 2 reserves Spirit. While active, your fire spells will also summon Raging Spirits, which are short-lived flaming skulls that rush at nearby enemies and rapidly attack them. Enemies will not directly engage these minions and can pass through them. So there's a lot of similarities here in the mechanics of the actual minion itself between Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1. It's still a short duration minion which will appear to have an aggressive behaviour. It rushes towards enemies, and enemies still won't directly engage these minions just like they do in Path of Exile 1. And they have no collision with enemies either, which is the same there as well, and they still can't taunt enemies. But there's 70% physical damage conversion to fire instead of the 100% on the current SRS in PoE 1, and that is pretty much where the similarities between the two abilities end, and where Path of Exile 2's new mechanics for this skill come in. And this is where the changes for this skill have me very excited for the possibilities, not just of using this gem in Path of Exile 2, but also all of the possibilities for how GGG could go about implementing other abilities into Path of Exile 2, both old and new ones. So this Raging Spirits ability reserves Spirit. We know that Spirit will be like a reservation resource in PoE 2. It will be used to reserve auras. It will be used to reserve things like permanent minions. We actually saw that in the recent Witch gameplay preview where permanent minions reserve Spirit and they respawn automatically after a short time as long as none of your other permanent minions have died recently. And we have temporary minions too, which won't reserve Spirit, but they consume a resource such as a corpse to actually be summoned in the first place. And Jonathan actually talked about this really interesting balance between permanent minions and temporary minions in one of those discussions, where minion builds have this incredibly high single target damage output, but they lack clear speed. So the temporary minions are great for boosting your clear speed, but you won't be able to actually utilize those temporary minions in boss fights because corpses are not going to be very readily available. And in Path of Exile 2, they're going to be much more limited. There's going to be no desecrate ability or anything like that, so players are going to be unable to actually spawn their own corpses. And that's where this Raging Spirits ability in Path of Exile 2 is so interesting, because it's kind of like a half and half. It's halfway between a permanent minion and halfway between a temporary minion. It does reserve Spirit, much like the permanent minions, but it does that to enable you to be able to create temporary minions, and that means that these temporary minions will be able to be used in a boss fight scenario. Let's just take a look at the interaction here with how this works with your fire spells. So this reservation ability will allow you to summon Raging Spirits when you use fire spells, so any spell with a fire tag. And we have these two lines right here. Fire area spells summon a spirit per 1.5 meters of radius, and projectiles from fire spells summon a spirit on hit. So this immediately gives you two really interesting ways to scale this ability, so that you're able to summon more Raging Spirits per cast of those fire spells. So you can either consider scaling an area of effect fire spell. Just imagine something like a giant flame blast going off and summoning a bunch of these Raging Spirits. I'm actually not sure whether it will summon the spirits on top of the location where the spell hits the enemies, or whether they'll spawn next to the caster. That will be interesting to see how that works exactly. But you can also go the projectile route using a fire spell that fires out projectiles, and you can scale the amount of projectiles so that you hit more enemies and summon more minions, or you could use mechanics like chain or pierce, so you can kind of make one projectile go through multiple enemies and summon multiple minions in that way as well. And I can already imagine a fire mage throwing out fireballs and summoning a bunch of Raging Spirits in a popcorn setup, so the minions are just immediately exploding on top of enemies. That sounds like a ton of fun. And this is just crazy when you think about it, because this ability makes no sense at all in the context of PoE 1. We don't have anything like a spellcaster which is dealing damage with their own abilities and also summoning minions which are dealing a ton of damage on their own. And really, I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited for about PoE 2. That kind of combining of archetypes which really just isn't a possibility in PoE 1, not unless you want to gimp your build. And it seems like it's going to be a lot more of a thing in Path of Exile 2, which is great, because it just opens up a lot more opportunity for more and more freedom in terms of buildcraft, and I love that. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, guys. I just wanted to talk about this gem a little bit because I think it looks great, and it makes me so excited for what other things could be coming in Path of Exile 2. Let me know what you think about the PoE 2 version of SRS by commenting below. Perhaps I'm late to the party, you already knew about this a long time ago. And also, do you have any crazy ideas for how they could go about implementing other Path of Exile 1 abilities in a fresh way into PoE 2? Let me know in the comment section below. And thanks for watching this video, and thank you to my channel supporters over on Patreon for your ongoing support. As always, stay tuned and stay safe.